Test.
How are you looking on the tech? Wonderful. If you guys are here to make any public comments, there are public comment cards over on the northwest side of the room. If you want to fill those out and get them up front here, that'd be wonderful so we can properly bring you up.
I don't see anyone.
I spent move around the corner. You're the one with the pretty garden.
Thank you. They've eaten all my tulips. They don't like acid.
Welcome to the July 1st, 2026 business session for the Planning Commission in Cottonwood Heights. We wanted to start out and welcome a few new planning commissioners up here this evening. We have Mike Crowder and Sarah Kovac joining us. And remind me, which districts you guys are both coming from? I'm going to put you guys on the spot. This is a part of the test.
Yeah, so Mike Crowder is from District 1, and then Sarah's in District 2.
Wonderful. Well, it's great to have you guys on board. And we also have an additional commissioner that was not able to make it tonight that is new. So we'll be welcoming them this next meeting. And we do have Commissioner Shelton online as well, joining us in. Thank you for coming this evening. We appreciate your interaction with the city on all of the items that we have this evening. Want to start off with ex parte communications or conflict of interests that we need to disclose? I see none. Moving forward, we are going to go over the general public comment. So the general public comment period this evening is if you do have a public comment that is not related to any business item on the agenda. This would be anything that is not related to Project SUB-26-004 or Project ZTA-26-002. So if there are any general public comments, we will keep that open here for just a moment. I see none, so we will close general public comments. Let's move forward to the business items, which is Project SUB-26-004, and we've got Jim Spung, our Economic Development Director, who's going to be presenting on these.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chair. Let me go ahead and share my screen here. There we go. Okay, so this is an application submitted by Ivory Homes. The representative here is Peter Gambroulis. It's subdivision 26-004. The subject property is at 2327 East Bengal Boulevard. The current zoning is R18. The proposal is to subdivide the property into 10 residential lots that conform with the current zoning. So as I mentioned, tonight's review is a preliminary plat approval, which is required by the Planning Commission for any subdivisions that have 10 lots or more, which this does. The proposal includes a new public street, an HOA detention parcel, and you can see here the subject property again. The property is on a corner on the northeast corner of 2300 East and Bengal Boulevard. The existing use is a religious use with an existing building and surface parking. This is a screenshot of the proposed plat. So 2300 East would be, let me get my little laser guy here. There we go. So 2300 East is along the left edge, and then Bengal Boulevard is along the south or the bottom edge. A new public street would access off of Bengal Boulevard and then terminate in a cul-de-sac with 10 single-family lots that would front on that new street. The street would be constructed according to city standards, so it would include sidewalks, curb gutter, sidewalk, park strips, all the things that we generally would require with any new development. The existing zoning is R18, meaning it's a single-family residential zone with a minimum lot size of 8,000 square feet. And then the proposal is to have detached single-family homes that satisfy those R18 zoning standards. These are some of those standards. Here in the middle column, you'll see what's being proposed. And then on the right hand is what the city code requires. So 10 lots. The minimum lot area, again, as I mentioned, is a minimum of 8,000 square feet per code. All of the lots that are being proposed are at least 8,000 square feet or larger. And then the minimum lot widths are also wider than the minimum standard in the zone. Traffic access, utilities, infrastructure. Here you can see just a breakdown of what that looks like. As I mentioned, access would be from Bengal Boulevard. There was a traffic study that was prepared by a professional engineer. That study was reviewed by the city's engineering department and approved. There were no concerns that they raised. I actually did find the section of their conclusions that I can pull up here in a second just to answer some of the questions that were raised in the work session. Essentially, the conclusions of that were that no significant impacts would be a result of this project. As far as infrastructure, any new project requires new infrastructure. Anything related to the project would be constructed and paid for by the developer. And then after it's all constructed, the city would take ownership and maintain those facilities. With the exception of the stormwater detention pond, which you see here on parcel A, that will be privately owned and maintained by an HOA, a homeowners association. Again, these are the different review bodies, Engineering, Public Works, Unified Fire, and the utility providers, both water and sewer, have reviewed the plans and did not raise any concerns. Any technical comments will be addressed prior to the final plat and recording of the plat. We did send a public notice per city and state statute. So we sent a mailed notice to everyone within 1,000 feet of the property. To date, we haven't received any formal comments, but folks are here tonight that may make comments. Staff recommends approval of the subdivision because it conforms with the standards of the city's code. I won't read through all of these, but essentially any lingering comments or issues will have to be addressed before the plat is recorded. And then it talks about the parcel A, which is the stormwater facilities. These were all included in the staff report as well. And then any easements also would be on the plat, which are shown. Any questions?
We will be opening up for public comments here soon. So Jim, just jumping in, I did ask the question in our work session in regards to what our standard access would be from the corner of a roundabout. Were you able to pull up any of that information?
Not yet, but when we do the public hearing, I can find that.
Okay,
while
wonderful.
folks are speaking.
Just so that we can have that recorded on this. We do have the applicant here as well. Would you like to come up and present or make comments?
Sure, thank you. My name is Peter Gambroulis with Ivory Development. I don't have a presentation. Jim did an excellent job. I'm just available here for any questions that staff or the commission may have.
Wonderful. Thank you. Any questions from the commission?
I'd like to know how we're addressing just the street frontages. It looks like the property line, yeah.
That'd be
Sure.
great.
Yeah,
Yes.
it looks like the property line goes right up to the backside of the sidewalk from the site plan that we have. And so I'm just concerned that we're gonna have like a line of fences and potentially different materials and what that does for visibility, especially to pedestrians and traffic at that busy intersection.
Sure. Jim, are you by chance able to show the site plan? So maybe the slide before that. So if you're, do you mind if I just walk on?
Yeah.
this? Yes, our property line will be going up. Right? But then you do have that's existing public right of way. So as to your actual question, right, which is the fencing, we have not seen any thing according to city municipal code that would restrict the typical type of fencing. However, we do realize that that's the most visible portion of our property. So we are looking at doing a standardized fencing. We haven't elected a color type or material at this point, but we are looking to do some sort of an upgraded fencing type and have that consistent along our west and southern boundaries so that you have that. We're looking at it from an aesthetic perspective. I understand you're asking more from a site triangle standard. But we do,
Both.
yeah.
Yeah.
So from an aesthetic standard, we're recognizing that as well. And we'll be doing a consistent fencing on those sides.
Thank you.
Jim, I do know that there is specific regulation for fencing on corners. Is this considered a corner with a roundabout being there, or how are we qualifying that?
I'd have to defer to our engineering group. It's not a typical intersection where you have people stopped and looking at a street adjacent. You're continually moving through. So I don't anticipate that fencing would be an issue here because again, even if you're in the roundabout, the crosswalks are in a place where they wouldn't be impeded by any visual obstructions on the properties adjacent to them. So
Yeah, in our reviews, and typically we, through our engineering or identifying site triangles, putting that on our site plans, there's not a site triangle that's identified, which makes me assume that through the reviews that we've been through, I think we're through 3 reviews now, that there's not municipal code limiting that type of along that section. Now, there
Yeah.
would, of course, be where we do have the entrance
Right.
site triangles that are considered there.
Wonderful. Any other questions from the commission for the applicant?
All right, thank you. I'll be
Wonderful.
available if some do come up. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. We will be opening up public hearings here shortly. Thank you. So with that being said, we will open up public hearings. And if you have not already filled out a public comment card, please do so. It is on the northwest side of this room, and pass it up to our staff so we can get you on the public comment. So kicking this off, we have Paula Sommers, who will be first. Wonderful. Thank you. And you will have 3 minutes to speak.
Okay.
And if you are also here representing an organization or an HOA, we will be able to give you 5 minutes on that. Just let us know, please.
Okay. Good evening. My name is Paula Summers, and my mother, Helen Smilanich, owns the only house on the roundabout right here at 2340 East, directly across from the proposed development. My parents bought that house in 1955. So we're going on 71 years in just a few weeks. And they've seen all kinds of things over the years, from no church to a church, and soon no church, to no high school to a rebuilt high school, no city hall to a city hall, street light to stoplights to a roundabout. So we have quite a history here in the community. What I will say is that communication has not always been the best with the city on projects that are going on in this area. And I've had to work very hard on my mom's behalf, particularly to get answers, and as I think others in this room have done. I have questions and concerns. I guess the biggest one is the entrance and exit on Bengal Boulevard, why we're adding yet one more piece to an already very busy road with a roundabout and a high school and all of these other things in my mind. And again, I'm sure you're going to be able to show me traffic studies. In my mind, a far better place would be on the northwest corner of this property where the church already had an entrance and an exit. 2030 seems like it's far less busy. It's right across from City Hall. In my mind, I just don't understand, and I haven't received a good explanation for why the entrance and exit needs to be there. It impacts not so much my mom's property because she has a driveway on the west, but I have neighbors, very good neighbors behind me who live in those other houses who are going to have an extremely difficult time getting out onto Bengal Boulevard with yet one more piece of the puzzle, an entrance and an exit. That's probably my biggest concern with this project. I also want to know, what are the houses going to look like? We have very much a mid-century vibe here. Are these going to stand out like a sore thumb? Are they going to be concrete, glass? What's it going to do to the look of this little family area? Our hope is that for those of us who have lived here for decades and decades, and there are several in this room, that our voices be heard, and that if the project goes forward, the Ivory Homes is a good neighbor in terms of letting us know when there's going to be a lot of dust. Is that it?
Thank you.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Scott Bracken.
Hi, I haven't spoken at a planning commission meeting. I didn't even know when. Um, As far as living, I do consider myself living on the roundabout now, at least. I didn't used to. There used to be 2 homes there. But I am in agreement that 23rd East would be a better ingress and egress. It's a lot less busy. There's about half the traffic. There's 5,000 trips a day on 23rd East. There's about 10,000 on Bengal. Especially the AM peak was brought up when that goes from 7 to 9, but if we're going to be honest, it's 7 to 7:27 is when the traffic backs up. That's when the kids are coming to school, and that's when a lot of people leave. And this appeal is probably more for, I forgot, Peter? Well, see, I was close. More of an appeal to, if I was going to buy a house in there, and I heard the buyer beware, but honestly, if I was going to live there, I would much rather I could get out immediately on 23rd East, go down the road, get to the freeway. I would have if I'm going to egress onto Bengal Boulevard, I'm going to be caught in the westbound traffic, at least for the 25 minutes the school is getting in, or the 7 to 8 or minutes while lunch is happening. That may not be quite as big of a deal because there's not many coming this way. The PM probably isn't a big of a deal. If there was a way to change that, that would probably be beneficial. I would also make from a neighborhood standpoint that the people living there are kind of probably very closely associated with the neighborhood behind them more than they will the neighborhood across from Bengal Boulevard. I have lived here for decades, about 34 years, 32 years, it's something like that now. Clear views must be maintained. The other advantage I think of a 23rd East out egress is people coming out of the roundabout are going much slower than the ones that are going into the roundabout. They do slow down once they get in there, but coming out and going around the corner, it tends to be about 17, 18 miles an hour. And that is, again, based on me standing on that corner at my house or somewhere else with a speed gun, being ready to answer those questions when we put the thing in, because I knew people would be complaining about the speeds. I think that, and I like the stone wall by my place, so just keep going with it. It's the same one that's back there. It works really nice, but yeah, you need to keep something so that you can see around the corners. I know I'm glad to have the 4-foot wall, because if I didn't have it, I would feel it would be quite a clip coming around that even at 17 miles an hour coming around to get me out of my driveway.
Thank you. Marianne Ebler.
Hi, my name is Marianne Ebler, and I live at 2330 Bristlecone Circle. The proposed plan for the 10 homes has 2 properties backing up to me, 107 and 108. How these new properties are developed will have a direct consequence with my privacy, with my access to mountain views, and general ability to enjoy my yard, which I love to spend time in. I hope that my concerns will be taken seriously by Peter and all of his developing friends. First, how close are the property lines where the home foundations be set? I hope that the privacy for both me and the purchaser of the new homes will be a careful consideration. Will the homes be ramblers, or are they going to be 2 stories? Will I be able to use my 2nd-story deck without compromising the privacy of my new neighbors? When the construction is scheduled, to start and how it affects and how the owners of Bristlecone Circle will be notified of plans. This includes work hours that they're going to be over there and how they're going to minimize the dust and the noise. What plans do they have for securing the area against individuals and animals? And what plans do they have for the landscaping and gardens of the existing neighbors there? Finally, I ask that the property developers consider installing a 12-foot solid fence to ensure the privacy of the current owners and also the new homeowners, preferably with additions of large evergreens, bushes along the fence. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Jeannie Palmer.
Hi. I live next door to Mary Ann, and she pretty much said we worked on this together, how I feel. I've also talked to Peter, and this was our forever home. We chose it because of the surrounding homes around us. It was a quiet community, close to the freeways. We were still working when we bought this home. It was easy to drive to work, get home, grocery stores, everything. We didn't have children. Our daughter was an adult. We weren't worried about schools. I think, like Mary Ann, I am worried about the impact to my privacy and to the serenity of our home. I am a gardener. I love to work in my backyard. I enjoy my flowers, my trees, and I just don't know. I don't want a two-story looking down on me and into my windows. And we don't seem to have the ability to dictate what a builder does or what they decide. In talking to Peter, this property is being sold one at a time to buyers, and they can choose their home. So I have no say, and we are terribly impacted by this. As Mary Ann said, we have a breathtaking view of the mountains. That doesn't, aesthetics in today's world or consideration of human beings is not what I see going on in our political environment, nor here. I don't know why every piece of property has to be covered with a home and covered with something. And I guess I shouldn't come up here and issue a complaint since I could be looking at 2 stories, apartments, and I would still have no say. So I hope, even though Ivory already has their decisions made, that some consideration is given to the property owners, people coming and going, and what we have to live with, and the end result. Thank you.
Thank you. Craig Paxman.
Thank you. I don't live anywhere near there. I'm about 3 blocks further east. I have greatly enjoyed the roundabout. It's one of the best decisions I think the city's ever made, although I was questioning it when it first started. I would agree with what's been suggested about having the egress over here on 23rd, because lots of traffic comes down there and much less over here. I wondered about the lot sizes, how they compare with surrounding homes. Are they roughly the same size? Are they quite a bit smaller? Along with that, the number of garage spaces they will have and parking spaces on the on the street and the little cul-de-sac that they have. Any thoughts about Brighton students parking there? That's an issue that's been brought up that I've heard of. Of course, they can't park there in the church because it's barred now. They were able to do it earlier, but it does seem like a fairly close place if you come in late to school. Probably my biggest concern would be the impact on the roundabout, whether it's during the peak 27 minutes that Scott referred to, or just generally. I think it would have been helpful to me, maybe to others, to have not just the two screens and there's what it looks like and now it's gone. I don't mind looking at the 5 or 6 or 7 of you, but I'd much rather have in my hand what the proposed subdivision is supposed to look like. Seems to me that would have been easy enough to do and helpful. Thank you.
Thank you. Marcia Whitney.
I live near the Dover Hill Park, Ivory Homes subdivision. And I'm very concerned in this edition, I live over there. So those homes are gigantic. They're much bigger than all the homes around us. A couple homes are 6,000 square feet. The lots are about a quarter of an acre, except for a couple of them. And there are 13 homes there. And there is a park in the middle. But every home is 2 stories at least. And a couple of my question are maybe a little too high. But they all look down, most of them look down into homes that are similar to what Bristol Cone has. And I don't know why Ivory Homes could not scale down their homes, maybe some ramblers. Something besides, that's going to be a big eyesore on the corner there, because we already see it when we go around Summer Hill and Dover Hill. We already see these giant houses, which are much bigger than what we have. And they look down into people's backyards. And I suspect that's going to happen on the roundabout area. So I'd like to, if possible, if we could have smaller homes on that corner. I also have heard that the church next to, across from Smith's on Bengal is perhaps going to go away also. And I'm guessing Ivory Homes would like to put houses in there. So granted, all these houses are now giving the city of Cottonwood Heights taxes. And I get it, but that's a lot of cars. I mean, there's going to be 26 cars around the roundabout trying to get around from the new place. So I just thought I wasn't planning to speak, but I am not a real fan of these big houses in our area of homes. I've lived here only 18 years, so I feel for the people that have been here a long time. Thank you.
Thank you. Debbie McIntosh.
Hi, I'm Debbie McIntosh. I live up here across the street from Butler Middle. I've lived in this area for 62 years and watched it grow. And I've been a little bit concerned with the lack of parking at Brighton High School and the lack of parking all around Butler Middle. Every time there's an activity of any kind in the area, we have cars parked on both sides of our street that stop us from getting in and out of our own neighborhoods. I really wish, I did not realize this was so far in the process, but I really wished that Brighton High School or the district could have purchased that property for parking, because we have got so little parking here. And don't we want to welcome people, visitors to the area? I think we do. And those houses that are going to be right there, you can better believe that they're going to have that whole road stacked with visitor parking. So I was hoping that there would be some way that we could reduce the amount of homes there and gift, I know this sounds ridiculous, but gift that to the city for parking. Not only for Brighton High School students, but for visitors to our city. I just think that it would be very welcoming. It would be a lovely thing for our city to have access to great parking for wonderful events that we have here in our city. Also have had conversation with some of the parents at Brighton High School that their kids are having, well, they're paying parking permits and there's no parking. And that we've got to address this somehow. And we have this opportunity that I think is amazing. I know that Ivory Homes wants to build homes. I get that. And I think it's a lovely idea. But if there's any way that we could split it and have the opening be here on 23rd East rather than out here, I think would be a much better idea in the planning. Anyway, thank you so much.
Thank you. Those are all the comment cards that I have. Is there anybody else interested in making a public comment? You will have to come up here to make a public comment, and please state your name.
Thank you. Jody Whitehead. Is it going to be a gated community where there be possible backups getting into that subdivision?
So it's not a question and answer on this. So if you want to make statement or comments on
I
it.
was just wondering if it's going to be a gated community and consider having possible blockage of them trying to get into their own gated community off Bengal, if that's where the access will be. That's just my concern too.
Thank you. Right. I see no other public comments, so we will now close the public comment period and go into Planning Commission deliberation at this point.
Mr. Chair, if I could just answer some of your earlier questions. I was scrambling to find answers and I found them all.
Wonderful.
So if you're interested.
Very much so.
Okay, so as far as the park strip goes, there's standards in the code that the developer has to install park strips according to the city standards. So if you'd like to include that as one of the conditions of approval, we can certainly do that. It's already required because the condition says they have to meet all the standards. So we'll ensure that we meet with the developer to go over landscape and irrigation plans that would satisfy those requirements. Generally, park strips in front of individual homes would be constructed by the owners of the home when they get the building permit. But here where we have a double frontage situation with Bengal and 2300 East being, I guess, still part of the individual property owner, we'll talk to the developer and see how we can best manage planting trees and landscaping for that. So does that answer your question, Commissioner Kovac, on landscape, more or less?
I guess would that be required for the rear? Or is that just along the frontage of those homes?
It would be both. Yeah.
It would be required for both.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
So Commissioner Steinman, your question about distance from a street. So local streets have to be at least 150 feet from an intersection. Based on the dimensions provided here, let me get my little pointer guy again. They're about 182 feet from the closest point of where the roundabout begins. So it would meet that requirement for that.
Can I ask a clarification to
Yeah.
that one?
Yeah.
Can we confirm what the distance is from the exit of the roundabout to the property line along 2300?
Yeah. So let me go to this slide.
And if
So
that
this
would
this
meet-
dimension is 154 feet or 154.69 feet.
So even if there was an entrance to the far
Well,
north, it would
To
not.
this point, it's 154 feet, and then this segment is 65 feet. So they couldn't have an intersection begin closer than here. But I don't think 65 feet would be wide enough to do a full right of way. I guess I don't know, but it's farther here than it would have been on 23.
Okay. It may not be possible to meet code by
Right.
doing it along that road.
Correct.
Thank you.
Okay. And then this is a screenshot of the conclusion of the traffic study that Commissioner Polson raised in the work session. I don't want to read it to you all because you know how to read. So I'll just leave it up here and you can take a look at it. And then with that, I can answer some of the public's comments while you guys are reading that, if that's okay. So as far as the gated entrance, it's not gated. It's a public street, so it'll just be accessed like every other public road. As far as the the architectural style or building heights, when the owners or developer submits building permits, they would be subject to the same rules as every other house in the city. So you can build up to 30 to 35 feet maximum. We have no standards regulating architecture. So if it meets the building code, it's, I don't know, kind of a private property rights thing. You could build your house how you want it. These folks could do the same. So there's no limits on having it have to be 1 story or 2 stories. All the residential zones in the city are treated equally. So it's whatever standards that are already adopted would be reviewed for that. And that would be part of a building permit. I assume Ivory's a home builder. They're going to construct the homes and then sell them. So it would be things that are in Ivory's portfolio. The applicant could speak to if they have ideas for what types of products will be in there. But again, the city doesn't regulate specific styles. That's up to the owners to decide. So that's all I've got. Yes. Can you make sure your microphone's on just for the...
All right. My recollection is that the homes can't be higher than 31 feet at their highest point. Is that correct?
So 35 feet is the maximum height.
It's 35.
If
My bad.
you're in a sensitive land, then it's 30 feet. I don't believe this project is in a sensitive lands. So 35 feet would be the maximum. And that's from the existing grade, which is pretty flat. So
Jim, could you also share some commentary in regards to the zoning of this site and how this is not a rezone? So from a use standpoint, this is not changing use.
yeah, so the property is already zoned R18, and that designation essentially grants a property right to the owner. Just like everyone owns a home that has a zoning. If you were to tear down your house, you could rebuild a home up to 35 feet or whatever the standard is without needing the legislative body, the city council, to say yes. So the way it works is the city adopts ordinances and then applies those ordinances to specific zones in the city. And if it's a permitted use, so in this case, building a house on a property zone for single family isn't allowed use, as long as the applicant and the owner meet the standards that the city's already adopted, you can't really tell them no, because the city's adopted the standards saying, we're okay having a house here if you meet these rules. And it's the same with a subdivision plat. The city's adopted standards for how to subdivide property and how to build homes. If an applicant comes and says that they can do that and meet all the city standards, the city can't tell them, no, we don't want you to do that, because the city's already said that you could do that by adopting the ordinances. So it's a differentiation between an administrative decision, so something that is essentially checking the boxes saying, yes, you meet the standard, versus a legislative action, which would be changing the rules for development. So if, for instance, Ivory Homes purchased the property and said, we want to build apartments, that's changing the rules for what they could have done there. And that would require the city council to change the law, essentially to say, instead of building a single family home here, we'll rezone the property, change the rules essentially to allow you to build something different. So that's where the difference comes in, is that this is an administrative decision. If you change the rules, either changing the text of the rule or the map of where the rules apply, that's a legislative action that only the city council can make. So.
Thank you. So just for clarification purposes for everyone here, the zoning of this property is consistent with the zoning of all adjacent properties to this being R18.
It is, yeah. All the properties around it have the same zoning and same entitlements. And there was a question about, do the lot sizes here correspond with the lot sizes in adjacent areas? For the most part, yes. The average lot sizes for properties that abut immediately to the church are just under 9,000 square feet, or right about 9,000 square feet. So these will be a few hundred square feet less, but still satisfies the minimum 8,000 square foot requirement that the law says that you have to have.
So anybody in adjacent properties can build up to 35 feet and build within the setback requirements that are going to be consistent to the Ivory Homes development.
Right, and anywhere in the city that's zoned R18 that has that color has the same rules for everywhere. There's some caveats if you're in a sensitive land or on a steep slope. You know, there are things to consider there, but generally you could build a house on an 8,000 square foot lot that's this tall and that's this far from property lines. It's all the same.
Great. Could you also share all of the details in regards to work hours that are allowed within Cottonwood Heights? I know that there is specific ordinance in regards to time at working.
For construction?
Yes.
So that's actually managed by Salt Lake County. So it's just the county noise ordinance. I don't know if it's different during the summer. I want to say it's like 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. is when the noise ordinance isn't enforced, but that would be up to the builder. I know Ivory Homes is probably the largest builder in Utah. They know how to build homes. They know how to not make people angry. If they do, they've got plenty of staff that can help address concerns. So I would just encourage any residents here to talk to the applicant afterwards, ask them questions. Again, that's not stuff the city really regulates. We just make sure they follow the rules as far as the building is concerned. But we can't force them to make everyone else happy. We can't force them to be a great neighbor. So we just make sure they meet the city standards.
Any other further comments from the commission? Any further comments from the applicant?
Thank you. So I always try and take notes at public comment and see what I can answer right away. And a lot of them were repeats, so I should be pretty efficient. You can stop me if I'm going over too long. Paula, as well as other owners, or excuse me, other nearby neighbors asked about the type of housing. And then Jeannie did actually share what I had shared with her. We won't pre-program the homes for this site. They will be pre-sold prior to us building permit. So if anyone is interested in seeing the types of homes that will be built here, they will be very similar to those that were referenced by, I believe it was Marcia, who lives next to our Cottonwood Canyon Cove development up on Dover Hill. Or actually, if you'd like to just see right behind City Hall as you're leaving today, we did 3 lots on this cul-de-sac. You're also welcome to look at ivoryhomes.com. We have a catalog called the Signature Catalog, and that will be the home plans that are made available here. So look at the Signature Catalog, which is our more premier catalog of housing. As far as Ramblers and 2 stories, that will be per homeowners or home buyers, what fits per the lot setbacks and what they elect to build. Scott was, as well as others, were concerned about the Bengal traffic and the connection there. I think it was very helpful, actually, what Jim showed at the end. When I first was looking at this site, I did ask to design off of 2300. I thought it made the most sense, and then my engineers came back and said it didn't. First of all, we do look at it for a couple other reasons more than you guys might, and a lot of that is lot yield. And so we weren't able to lay out the site in an efficient manner. And so therefore and of course the distance from the roundabout, so therefore it was designed the way it is. I understand it's not ideal. I appreciated someone in the work session mentioned buyer beware. I don't think you drive here and not know that Bengal Boulevard does have some impacts that new homeowners would understand. I see that Marianne had questions about views. I'm always everyone's favorite person because I come to take away views. So I can't promise that we will maintain any views. I can promise that we will be building per the ordinance and the height ordinance of Cottonwood Heights City. There was also a reference to dust and dust mitigation. We'll be required to pull a fugitive dust permit with the state. In fact, my demolition contractor has already done so there is dust mitigation that will occur. I cannot promise that there will not be dust, but I've been involved in probably most of Ivory's infill developments in East Salt Lake County for the last 5-6 years. If anyone's familiar with the Reed School in Mill Creek City Hall, I was just involved in the demolition of that and the development of that site. Dust will happen. We will be required to mitigate, and we will be required to follow our UPDES permit and our fugitive dust control permit. Privacy, I cannot. We will not be building a 12-foot fence along the north and our east boundaries. We are not intending to build a fence with development, but as I had mentioned to Commissioner Kovac, I apologize, I have poor sight. We are going to have consistent fencing along the west and or south boundary. Craig referenced garage spaces and parking. This was actually, and student parking. Thank you, Craig. I ideally wanted this site to have a private street. Right now, Cottonwood Heights City Ordinance, which I've been kind of nudging and petitioning the city to do, does not allow private streets outside of a planned development or surrendering, I think it's 25% of the property to open space, neither of which would have been feasible for this project. So it will be a public street, we'll have public parking. But as far as garage spaces, we do not build any plans in our signature catalog that have fewer than 2 parking spaces. Ideally, at this price category, we see most homes having 3-car garages. Marcia was the neighbor to Dover Hill. Debbie, I'm sorry, we won't be donating any of the property for parking, but the public streets will be parkable. And Jude, I'm sorry, I didn't take notes for Judy's comment, and I know that was the last one, so I'm trying to remember it. I'm sorry. Gated access. I did want gated access, but with a public street, we will not be able to gate the access. So had we done a private street, we would have looked at the possibility of doing that, understanding that there would be requirements to, for queuing, but that was my initial design. But since we're moving with a public road, it will not be gated. That's what I took as notes. I'm available for any other questions.
Yeah, really quick on that. You had mentioned that it will be public parking on the streets.
I can't stop that. I think there's ways, yeah, because they're public roads.
So the HOA will not be able to prevent.
Legally, legally, HOAs are no longer able to, that happened about 2 legislative sessions ago at the state ordinance passed where HOA can no longer have enforce CCNRs that regulate parking on public streets. Prior to that, we did have that in our CCNRs. It was always kind of a mess to enforce because, you know, but that is no longer legal for an HOA to manage public streets.
Thank you.
If I can add, some cities do have processes when they're close to high schools to get certain parking restrictions on the street. That is something that if Cottonwood Heights does have, I would try and petition for. But I haven't dug into that.
Jim, this brings up a really good point. This has been closed off and for many years now, and just for people pulling out of driveways and I imagine this being an absolute madhouse during school and people running tardy and just an underparked high school, which it's been underparked since 1976, maybe longer than that. I do have concern about that being as close as it is. It's been closed off, you know, by the private property here. Are there any type of ways that we could either allow for that to be prevented or allow for some type of a change where we could allow for a gate?
Yeah, it's a good question. The gate discussion is really difficult because if it's a public street, normally we don't allow people just to gate off a public road because it's a public street. As far as on-street parking goes, just looking at the design, it looks like most of the frontages will be driveway, especially in cul-de-sacs. So I don't know if you could even really find somewhere to park on a street that's not blocking a driveway. You know, potentially in front of lot 101, lot 109, but as the applicant mentioned, you know, most of these properties will have driveways that can park a few vehicles as well as like a 2 to 3 car garage. So as far as the residents are concerned, there's ample parking, just like any other neighborhood. Anyone can park on the street in front of your house. Like, it's not prohibited. There are some areas in Cottonwood Heights where we do have an on-street parking program, specifically up in the top of the world area where there's trails that a lot of people will park on the street. Where we do have a parking permit, those are things we could explore with the applicant and down the road if it becomes an issue where students are parking in here. But I just honestly don't see a lot of space where you'd have capacity to park more than maybe 10 cars on the street without blocking a hydrant or a driveway. So I guess a long-winded answer to say we can address it if it becomes an issue, but it's hard to know if it would be an issue.
I like to prevent issues from coming about just because of how difficult the process can be, especially for the residents that are adjacent here. And I know that a lot of residents in the neighborhoods probably have similar issues to this. I see opportunity for more than that from a public parking standpoint. And I know that teenagers are very well known for following the rules, but I think that this is definitely something that a part of this, I would love to better understand how we can make sure that the applicant, just because this is nearly a by right development. And I think that those are just factors that just living in the city for as long as I have and going to Brighton High School and understanding some of those issues, I would like to preemptively propose for us to alleviate that issue instead of kind of being reactive to it. What would that process look like from our standpoint?
So really, I think it would be talking with our engineering group to see what they think, because in essence, the planning and zoning side is mostly on the private land. I don't really do stuff in the right of way because that's the police department that enforces it and our public works and engineering group that constructs and signs everything. So it may be as simple as just putting up some signs saying, no parking on weekdays between 7 and 3, and then that would help deter people. And then the police department would enforce that with citations. Getting beyond that into like a parking permit program, that's also an option, but there's some administrative burden that comes with that to where now we have to process and, administer parking permits and then also enforce them. So those are things that we could explore with Public Works to see what they think would make sense. And we could work with the applicant to help address some of those.
Yeah, what are the possibilities of vacating this from a public road and making this private and fully controlled by the homeowners association?
I mean, that's up to the applicant.
So we wouldn't under current code conditions. If code were to change, we'd love to. But as code exists right now, it would make it infeasible for the project to move forward.
Yeah, it gets tough with projects like this where you have 10 lots. Now 10 property owners are responsible for maintaining, several $1 million worth of infrastructure. And I mean, there's not really any HOA amenity here other than the road. So it from a buyer standpoint, it doesn't make a lot of sense to have a big HOA fee to pay for a road that could be public and handled publicly. And I think the city's preference is to have public streets that aren't gated off and things like that. Good questions, though. I mean, the parking permit thing we can definitely address, and there may be folks that could speak a little bit more to what that might look like during school hours, because it is a bit unique here in that it's not a typical context where you have a high parking demand that's offsite that would trickle into the neighborhood.
Yeah, I think that 6 p.m. to 6 p.m. I think would be ample for that. I do know that there are special events, concerts. There's also, different jazz network concerts and larger scale public events over there as well. I think that that's going to be much more limited, but just for, the piece of that neighborhood, I think that'd be something important for us to evaluate just because the students are rule followers and we can trust that. So
yeah, and I guess the only other comment I would have on that is that we would have to look a little bit more comprehensively at everywhere around the school. So if we did that for this street, then what's to say that the people on just the street to the south say, well, we want no parking between this time, and then the next street. So I think there's obviously a trickle down effect to where if there's obvious issues and impacts, we could explore that, but I would be hesitant to have a no parking rule for just these 10 owners when it doesn't apply anywhere else where other people might have the same impact. So those are things
would
that I can
agree with
talk
that.
through.
Just, I mean, that was one of the concerns brought
Yeah.
up, and we know that parking is a problem here when there's sports events and other things happening. So I hesitate putting all sorts of restrictions on one development and not helping our other neighbors.
Yeah, so that's maybe a question that's a little bit bigger than what this development is, and we're certainly welcome to, willing to explore that.
Well, I think it could be a starting point for that
Sure.
trajectory, especially with
Yeah.
it being an issue in adjacent neighborhoods as well. With this being a new development, we can nip it in the bud immediately and then trickle that
Right.
forward, depending on what the initiative of the city would be in that space.
Yeah. Okay.
Any other further discussion or questions of the applicant?
Sir, I do have,
So we have closed public comments.
I do have an answer for that.
Thank you. Okay, perfect. Thank you so much, Peter.
Thank you.
All right. Moving forward, any further conversation or deliberation on this?
I just have one question. I'm unclear whether under the code that it's required that we have a parking strip added to what we have. There isn't one presently. I'm confused as to what specified about parking strips. Can you help me with that, Jim?
Do you want to clarify the parking strips?
Yeah, so our transportation master plan has cross sections for all the streets. So this project would be subject to make whatever cross sections adopted in that plan what it should be, essentially. So
Presently, we don't have parking strips from what I'm observing.
for portions of that property, so I would have to consult our engineering group to see what our transportation plan shows the cross section for Bengal Boulevard and 2300 East is, and then this project would construct whatever the plan says it should be.
Thank you.
I welcome the motion.
Are we allowed to ask a question?
We have closed the public comment.
Guys, tonight, put on?
We have closed the public comment section.
I think everyone would like to know that, so.
Yeah, as far as kind of a question and answer, unfortunately, we're not able to go through all of that. All questions can be directed to staff in regards to this, especially with this being a by right development within the current zoning space here as well. A lot of conditions are not feasible for us if they were looking to be changing use on this space. Changing density on this space and going into a rezone process, then there would be a lot of conditions that the city would be able to put on this from a general plan standpoint, as well as zoning maps that were established and which we adopted from the county and made some minor changes, as well as made changes over the last 21 years of being a city. Anytime that there's a change of use, there are conditions that we can make. Anytime that there's a conditional use permit that goes into a space, we can create those conditions. In projects like this, this being an R18 zoning, it is basically just as if there's always been that many homes there under that current zoning, even though there isn't. A lot of people expect that the church would never sell. And it is an unfortunate situation that there are so many churches that are selling. I think there's 2 right now that are local, and there's dozens across the county right now. And a lot of these are found in these neighborhoods. But that is what involvement in the city and the general plan, we have just rewritten a lot of our general plan within the city, which then gives guidance on zoning change potential or use change potential that then, of course, goes to the council at a legislative matter. From a land use standpoint, we are not able to make any conditions around this, which is a part of the private property rights for specific zones where there is an expectation of what that zoning is and what use you have on that. So behind that, just make sure that you are staying active within the city, asking a lot of those questions. Our staff here is fantastic. Our elected officials are great. And you can reach out to any of your council members for these questions, as well as city staff. Jim and his whole team are very willing to answer those questions. So moving forward on that, I do welcome any model motion or any motions in regards to this.
I'll make a motion. I move that we approve project SUB-26-004 based on the findings and recommendations, including the recommendation and conditions listed in the staff report dated July 1st, 2026.
Wonderful. Commissioner Polson with a motion.
I'll second that.
Commissioner Shelton with a second. Any further deliberation? I hear none. So we'll move forward with the vote on the item. Commissioner Kovac. Yes, wonderful. Commissioner Kovac, yes. Commissioner Lugo.
Approve.
Commissioner Barnes.
Yes.
Commissioner Crowder.
Yes.
Commissioner Shelton.
Yes.
Commissioner Steinman, yes. Project SUB-26-004 moves forward on an approval.
Did you get Commissioner Polson's vote on that?
I made the motion. You can assume it's
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
Commissioner Polson?
yes.
Wonderful. We've got it. We've got an approval. All right. Congratulations. Thank you. Moving forward, we have project ZTA-26-002, which is a public hearing and possible recommendation to the City Council on city-initiated request for a zoning text amendment to modify CHMC, Chapter 1934 regarding development standards in the RM residential multifamily zone and corresponding definitions in CHMC Chapter 19.04.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think 19.34. Yes.
Now, I'm going to propose, because we did go over this in the previous meeting and
Yeah.
our audience has left and you had some clarification. And if you want to just go over the clarification between you and I that we had in between the meetings in regards to that specific site that I had question of.
Oh, yeah.
It sounds like we have already seen a Mylar on that site. That is the neighborhood commercial site that transitioned to RMF.
Right. Yeah. So the property, the former bank property on Bengal, so they're currently in the subdivision review phase. So they're, I think, at the point where they can print the Mylar and get signatures to record the plat. So they've already gone through all the process to ensure standards are met and everything. So, and the zoning has already been approved. That was done last August, I believe, by the city council. Was that the clarification that you had?
That was the clarification.
Yeah.
I am comfortable with, continuing to a public hearing on that item right now and working towards the public hearing and then going to planning commission deliberation if the rest of the commissioners are okay with that.
Okay. Great.
Wonderful. Commissioner Shelton, are you okay with that?
Yes.
Wonderful.
Okay.
Well, we will then open up the public hearing for ZTA-26-002. And there is nobody currently in the room for this public hearing. We will keep it open for 30 seconds and then close. There's no one here. It is a quiet 15. We will now close the public hearing. So let's move forward with the Planning Commission deliberation on this. As we discussed earlier, I had concern in regards to one area of RMF that was recently rezoned to that. With that clarification that Jim had put into place, this was an initiative from the council as well as from the staff, and I think just allows for better clarification as well as just better development within our community, especially for the existing sites that are available. So I welcome any further comments on this or motions.
So, Mr. Chair, just if I can clarify one thing. So because this is a legislative action, so as I mentioned before, this would be actually changing the rules. It would be recommending forwarding a positive or negative recommendation to the council, not necessarily a motion to approve or deny.
Great.
So just to
Thank you.
clarify. That's all.
I'll make a motion. I move that we forward the positive recommendation to the city council for project ZTA-26-002 based on the findings in the staff memo and attachments dated July 1st, 2026.
Commissioner Polson's with the motion.
I second that motion.
Commissioner Kovac with a second. Any further deliberation? I see none. We'll move forward with a vote. Commissioner Kovac,
Yes.
Commissioner Lugo,
Yes.
Commissioner Barnes,
Yes.
Commissioner Shelton,
Yes.
Commissioner Polson,
Yes.
Commissioner Crowder,
Yes.
Commissioner Steinman, yes. We will forward positive recommendation of project ZTA-26-002. Thank you. And then we also have the consent agenda from June 3rd, 2026. And there was one recommendation based on Commissioner Smith's comments that I clarified in regards to, I believe, page, was it 13? So page 13 was, in fact, Commissioner Mills, not Commissioner Smith. So I welcome any motions on this with that adaptation.
Although I wasn't at that meeting, I will make the motion that we approve the minutes for, what's the date of that? June, or yeah, it'd be June,
June 3rd. Yeah.
June 3rd, 2026.
Commissioner Polson with a motion to approve. Commissioner Barnes with a second. And what we can do on this is just do a collective vote. All in favor to approve, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Wonderful. Consent agenda approve. And let's see, I guess we just have one more motion.
I guess I'm your motion guy. I make a motion that we adjourn this meeting.
We have a motion to adjourn
I second.
and a second from Commissioner Kovac. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you, guys.